Right now, we're going to talk about a Mercedes that, well, I was a little surprised that it wasn't more expensive than the price that's listed.
It's still pretty pricey,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Oh, yes.
all things in perspective, right, Ed?
Well, good morning, Dan and Lauren. Yeah, we have the new Mercedes C-Class here. It's hard to believe this generation of the Mercedes has been out for almost 20 years now. It came out in the mid-90s as a car that was $29,950 to entice people back to Mercedes. But the first generation in my book wasn't all that. Then it seemed to get better, went backwards for a little bit. This time around, Mercedes has probably nailed this car perfectly. Now, I owned a couple of 190s, the first baby Benz when they came out in the early 80s. I actually love mine. In this generation, we have a 4-cylinder engine, 241 horsepower turbocharged. It's a little rough when it's cold for a couple miles, but when it warms up, this engine is magnificent. Smooth as silk, and it will just rocket down the road when you hit passing gear. You have an option for a 329 horsepower V6, but I'm thinking this one engine, the 4-cylinder, is the one everybody needs to get. Going to the interior, very nicely done. The upper screen will be your navigation, radio, things of this nature. Their version of the iDrive in the center dash actually works fairly well. Now, when you're on the road driving in this generation of the C-Class, I'll talk about the AC in a moment, the car is whisper quiet, and you can dial in the level of comfort or sport or super sport you want on the suspension, and that works unbelievably well. Now, it is a smaller car, so you're going to have somewhat restricted room for 4 adults in the back, let's say 5'9", 5'10" tops, front and back across. The design of the car, because the cab tends to be a little bit further back, you do have trunk space. It does have a fairly decent opening, but it's not as big as some of the mid-sized sedans that we tend to see in here. Still good enough because of the design of the car. So, where I have been critical on every other generation of the C-Class, and I think this one again was done flawlessly, it starts about $40,000. This one has everything on it, all sorts of bells and whistles. It's still under $50,000. So there was one little complaint I had on the vehicle. Like I said, go down the road, 65 miles an hour, quiet as a Mercedes S-Class, until you start turning on the fan on the air conditioner. And even halfway up, there's fan noise there where it shouldn't be. Now that's not going to bother a lot of people, but it's that one little thing that makes this car from being near perfect in a compact luxury sedan. With that, y'all have a good weekend.
All right, Ed, you can listen to Ed on 570 KLAF tomorrow. His car column, as always, in Saturday's Fort Worth Star Telegram. It is